Kenny Rogers was more than a country music icon. He was a father of 5, each child born from a different chapter of his life. His journey through parenthood was as complex and dramatic as any of his songs, filled with joy, regret, and heartfelt lessons. From a daughter born when he was just a teenager, to twin boys who arrived in his sunset years, Rogers' children each have their own unique stories. Number 4. Carol Lynn Rogers was born on September 15, 1958, when Kenny was only 19 years old. She was the cherished but unexpected daughter of Kenny's first marriage to Janice Gordon, his teenage sweetheart. Kenny dutifully married Janice in 1958 upon learning of the pregnancy, determined to take the step into married life and not walk away from the responsibility. Despite Kenny's good intentions and love for Janice, the young marriage quickly faltered under pressure. Janice's parents disapproved of Kenny's fledgling musician's lifestyle and thought I'd ruined her life, Kenny recalled of those tense early days. By 1960, the couple divorced, and Carol, barely a toddler, was at the center of a painful arrangement. With his music career taking off, Kenny made the heartbreaking decision to step back and let Carol be raised by her mother and new stepfather. That was my promise to them, that I would be her father, but he would be her dad, Kenny explained, grateful that Carol's stepdad stepped in at a time that was really awkward for all of us. This promise, made out of love and perhaps youthful insecurity, meant that Carol grew up largely apart from her biological father. She was legally adopted by her stepfather and saw Kenny only on brief court-arranged visits in childhood, at most 2 hours a week. As Kenny's fame grew in the 1960s, even those short visits fell away. He admitted that during his whirlwind early career, he did not see Carol in for 15 years. Father and daughter lived virtually separate lives. It wasn't until Carol was 22 years old that Kenny attempted to reconnect. In 1979, he flew Carol and her mother to Hawaii for a healing vacation. For a moment, it seemed the lost years might be bridged. Carol even joined her father on stage for a song, and a few years later, she stood by his side, along with half-brother Kenny Jr., at the 1986 People's Choice Awards, smiling for cameras and what was a rare public appearance together. But the reconciliation did not fully take root. By 2012, Kenny confessed that he and Carol still had no contact, respecting the role of the man who raised her. I don't have contact. He became her dad, and I love him for that. Carol's life in the ensuing decades remained mostly private. Number 3. Kenny Rogers Jr. born Kenneth Ray Rogers II on May 24, 1964, arrived at a turbulent time in his father's life. Kenny Sr. had remarried by then. His third wife, Margot Anderson, was a doting mother who supported his career until the strains grew too great. Young Kenny Jr., the only child of that union, spent his early childhood watching his dad's star rise in the late 1960s. But fame was a double-edged sword. By 1975, Kenny's marriage to Margot collapsed under the weight of constant touring and time apart. At just 11 years old, Kenny Jr. moved with his mother to Palm Springs, while his father hit the road, chasing superstardom. The physical distance led to emotional distance. I have hardly seen Kenny Jr. since 1975, Kenny lamented in a 1980 interview, wishing desperately that my relationship with Kenny Jr. were better. Like his sister Carol, Kenny Jr. felt his father's absence keenly. Still, there were glimmers of connection. Kenny Jr. was, by all accounts, a bright, talented boy. His dad noted proudly that he had a genius-level IQ and excelled in school. Perhaps that intelligence and maturity helped father and son find common ground later on. In his late teens and 20s, Kenny Jr. began dipping his toes into the entertainment world and occasionally alongside his famous father. In 1978, he made his acting debut as a child in the miniseries A Woman Called Moses, and later even played a son character opposite Kenny Sr. in the 1990 TV movie Christmas in America. Unlike the fraught relationship on screen, Kenny Jr. insists his real relationship with his dad wasn't strained by then. Indeed, father and son shared special moments. At the inaugural MTV Video Music Awards in 1984, Kenny Sr. received a Moon Man trophy for We Are the World, and he gave it to his son as a keepsake, because Kenny Jr. thought it looked cool. It was a small gesture that spoke volumes about a father eager to bond with his boy. In many ways, Kenny Jr. tried to follow his father's musical footsteps, yet carve his own identity. He lent backup vocals to his dad's albums in the mid-'80s, and even released a solo pop-rock album in 1989 titled Yes, No, Maybe, which produced the single Take Another Step Closer. But the younger Rogers soon discovered his strengths lay off-stage. He became a behind-the-scenes force, producing music for other artists, for example a country boy band called Marshall Dillon in 2000, and composing for film and TV. Under the name Kenny Rogers II, or Kenneth Rogers, he worked on soundtracks for movies like Shenanigans, 1995, contributed music to comedies like Get Him to the Greek, 2010, and Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, 2016, and even directed a short film in 2014. In Hollywood circles, he made friends, even dating actress Taya Carrere in the mid-1880s, when they were spotted on red carpets as a youthful couple. Through the highs and lows, Kenny Jr. maintained a relationship with his dad that grew warmer as both aged. In 2013, father and son were photographed laughing together at Universal Studios, a far cry from the estrangement of decades past. Kenny Sr., having learned from earlier mistakes, expressed profound respect for how his son navigated life out of the spotlight. By all accounts, Kenny Jr. became a grounded, creative individual with a gentle spirit, much like his father behind the scenes. Now, in his early 60s, Kenny Rogers Jr. keeps a low public profile. He continues to engage in the entertainment industry, often as a composer and producer, and treasures a more private life far from the frenzy of celebrity. Number 2. Christopher Cody Rogers. Born on December 4, 1981, Kenny Rogers felt he had been given a rare second chance to be the father he always wanted to be. Christopher, affectionately called Cody by the family, was the son of Kenny's fourth wife, Mary Ann Gordon, an actress. At 43, Kenny was older, wiser, and determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. He attended Lamar's classes with Mary Ann and eagerly anticipated the arrival of this new baby. But Christopher's entry into the world was fraught with danger. He was born with high-aligned membrane disease, a respiratory condition that had proved fatal to President John F. Kennedy's infant son in the 1960s. For a tense period in the neonatal unit, the Rogers family feared they might lose him. Thanks to advances in medical care by 1981, little Cody pulled through and recovered. Kenny was overjoyed. He famously handed out Hershey's chocolate bars at Cedars-Sinai Hospital to celebrate his miracle boy's birth. However, as Christopher grew into a preteen, cracks appeared in his parents' marriage. By the early 1990s, Kenny and Mary Ann were drifting apart. They divorced in 1993 after 15 years together in what became an infamous $60 million settlement, one of the most expensive celebrity divorces of its time. For 12-year-old Christopher, the divorce was devastating. Kenny later recounted the painful day he broke the news while the two were riding a golf cart. Chris started screaming upon hearing Mom and Dad were splitting. The boy feared that a stepfather might replace Kenny. With tears in his eyes, he asked, "Will you still be my dad?" Kenny held him close and promised nothing could change their bond. Of course he would always be his dad. It was a heart-wrenching scene of a child grappling with change, but Kenny's reassurance got through. It was just a 12-year-old sorting out those things. Then he was fine, Kenny recalled. From then on, father and son adjusted to a new normal, spending quality time together, even as Kenny's touring resumed. In adolescence and adulthood, Christopher forged his own identity while still embracing his father's influence. He did not become a singer, but he did enter the entertainment industry. Chris discovered a passion for filmmaking. He worked as an actor, director, writer, and editor on various projects. In fact, he gave both his parents a special tribute by casting them in The Gambler Returns, The Luck of the Draw, 1991, a TV movie connected to one of Kenny's famous song series. Marianne had a small role in it, and Kenny, of course, starred in The Gambler franchise. A fitting family collaboration, Christopher went on to create short films like Two If by Sea, 2018, and to work on indie films such as Loneliness and an ensemble comedy called Park. As a director and storyteller, he stayed mostly behind the camera, content to let his work, not his last name, speak for itself. In his personal life, Christopher has also kept a fairly low profile. One delightful piece of news emerged in 2020 when his stepmom, Wanda Miller, Kenny's fifth wife, inadvertently revealed on Instagram that Christopher had gotten engaged to his longtime girlfriend, a woman named Monica Pang. Monica, notably, was Miss Georgia USA in 2005, suggesting Christopher had found a partner who shines outside of his father's shadow. The two reportedly married in 2021, and Wanda welcomed Monica as my daughter-in-law-to-be in that celebratory post. Professionally, Chris continues to pursue directing and producing, quietly building a career that, while far from the limelight, would certainly make his dad proud. During Kenny's final years of health decline, it was Christopher who often checked in on him and spent time by his side. The closeness they shared remained intact till the end. After Kenny's passing in March 2020, Christopher, then 38, stepped forward as a supportive older brother to the twin boys and helped keep his father's memory alive. Number 1. Jordan Edward Rogers and Justin Charles Rogers. When Kenny Rogers became a father again at 65, it shocked even him. But on July 6, 2004, his twin sons, Jordan Edward and Justin Charles, were born, and they changed everything. At first, Kenny wasn't sure he wanted more kids. He'd already raised 3. But when his wife, Wanda, asked for a child on her 31st birthday, his heart softened. They prayed for 1 and got 2. Kenny called it a blessing I didn't see coming. Raising twins in his 60s wasn't easy, but Kenny threw himself into it. He canceled tours, cleared his calendar, and created traditions. Every Saturday was Super Saturday. McDonald's for breakfast, car washes, and long afternoons at Chuck E. Cheese. Jordan would later say they still visit that same table just to feel close to their dad. Jordan and Justin were opposites in personality. Jordan, a drummer, loved to make people laugh. Justin, more thoughtful, picked up the guitar to be like Dad. Both boys inherited Kenny's charm and kindness, but the twins also saw Kenny at his most vulnerable. He was older, slower, and deeply aware that he might not be around for their college years. "It breaks my heart," he once admitted. Still, he filled their childhoods with love, music, and wisdom. When Kenny passed in 2020, Jordan and Justin were only 15, but they carried on the Saturday traditions, volunteered at their dad's favorite charity, and leaned on each other. They say they still feel Kenny's presence in small moments, a familiar joke, a favorite song, or a glance that reminds them of him.